Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Linsa. I'm the product manager with Nimblework and your host for the day. I'm delighted to welcome you to another episode of our webinar series, Streamlining Work Management for Competitive Advantage. Today marks episode 5 in the series, which is titled Funding and Approval of New Projects. This webinar is hosted by Nimblework, and our mission is to humanize work. So as we wait for our participants to join in, let's review today's agenda. I will begin by introducing our speaker. Following that, I'll provide a brief overview of Nimblework for those who may be new to our community. We will then dive into the main session, followed by an interactive Q&A session where we can engage with your insights and questions on this topic. A few housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded and we will send the recording to all registered participants via email after the session. Please use the Q&A box on the Zoom panel to submit your questions and we will address them either during the session or at the end. So let's begin with the introductions. Joining me today is Mano Cherian. He's our VP of Business Development. Mano is exceptionally well versed in all aspects of work and project management solutions. He has played a pivotal role not only in business development, but also in managing some of our largest projects and consulting engagements. Mano brings a wealth of knowledge on the business challenges our customers face and the best practices for effective project delivery. He will share his insights during his part of the session. So a quick overview of Nimble. We have been pioneers in web-based project and work management solutions for over 2 decades. We are based out of Cupertino, California, and we have offices in North America, Europe, and India. And we serve over 1 million users worldwide. You can learn more about us by visiting us on our website, nimblework.com. So these are the suite of products that we offer. Our product portfolio is comprehensive, covering the entire value stream of work and project management, from strategic portfolio management and OKRs to project execution and day-to-day work management. We offer solutions for agile, hybrid, and traditional project management methodologies. Additionally, we provide tools for continuous improvement, such as Nimble Retro for retrospectives and Swift Kanban for lean and agile teams. Finally, a look at some of our customers. We are proud to serve a diverse range of customers from small teams to large enterprises with tens of thousands of users. Our extensive experience with various organizational cultures and structures help us deliver successful project outcomes. So with that, let's move on to today's session. I will now hand over to Mano to take us through this critical topic where we'll talk about the funding and approval of new projects. Thank you. Welcome, Manu.
Thank you, Linsa, for setting up the context well. Just unshare your screen so that I will be able to take over the presentation.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope you're able to see my screen now, my slide deck.
Yes.
All right, great. So today's topic is about funding and approval of new projects. Now, this is a critical subject because it is very important to ensure that we identify, pick up the right initiatives and get them executed as projects. And it is also important to note the budget that is that has been allocated, and we are able to pick up those initiatives which will fit within the budget that has been allocated for a particular portfolio, and then get projects executed. Now, what does this mean? So this means that if we were to look at a typical corporate structure, it means that we need to set up portfolios. Within each of these portfolios, you will set up strategic programs and goals or strategic initiatives, which basically says that these are the areas which that portfolio is going to focus on or get engaged with. Once the portfolio has been set up, the typical practice which we have seen across our customers is at a portfolio level, at a high level, budgets get allocated. Now, we have seen that budgets get allocated across different cycles. In some organizations, the budgets are allocated for a 2-year period. In some organizations, it is allocated for a 1-year duration. And we have also seen where organizations who want to be lean and have the flexibility to keep changing based on the market demand of the organization, they also allocate budgets on a quarterly basis. Once the budget has been allocated, the portfolio is ready to serve its purpose. Then the question is, how do I identify my key demands that is coming across the entire spectrum of my organization? So you will be getting a lot of demands. How do I identify these key demands, and how do I very identify demands that are aligned to the key strategic programs for that particular portfolio? Now, once you have identified the demand, it is just not that you take that demand and take it for execution. You need to build a business case, why that demand is required, what are the benefits of that demand, and that demand needs to be validated and reviewed by the portfolio team, and it may also need inputs from external stakeholders. Once that has happened, so let us assume that you have got a set of 4 or 5 demands that has been approved for a quarter, and you have a limited budget. So which of these 4 or 5 demands will I prioritize, approve, and take for project execution? And once it has been approved, then you take it through a approval process. So these are the core stages or steps in a typical funding and approval process, especially when it comes to approving new initiatives and new projects that needs to be onboarded by the portfolio team. Now, this whole life cycle can be modeled and mapped within the Nimble Enterprise solution. And that's what most of our customers who are into portfolio management or who are into even strategic account management. You may have a strategic account and you will have a fixed set of resources available. And how do I pick up those requests that are coming, which will maximize the outcome for my account or for my customer? So even in that scenario, we have seen that there is a method of identifying the key needs. There is a method of validating the business case, and then there is a method for prioritization and project creation. And this entire life cycle can be done within the Nimble Enterprise application. So what I'm going to do in the next 30 minutes or so is to quickly take you through that process, and and then we can spend few minutes towards the end for a Q&A session. Now, what I'm going to do next now is I'm going to log in as a portfolio leader. So the background of today's demo is we have set up a portfolio. We have defined programs, strategic programs for that specific portfolio. So all of that is in place. And once that has been set up, then the portfolio leader can log into his application, can log in and go to the portfolio management module. Now, within the portfolio management module, uh, he or she can can go to the budgeting utility. So you can see here that budgets has been created for the year 2023 to 2024, and you can also see that certain budget has been created from 1st of April to 31st of March 2025. Now, the budget planning period can be, like I mentioned to you earlier, it can be quarterly, it can be yearly, it can be once in 6 months, depending on the frequency that you would want it to be. And once you have set up the frequency, this is what we have seen a lot of organizations adopting. They set up their budget cycles on a quarterly basis so that they are able to be more flexible in managing their budget. So once the planning period has been set, then you can go set up your budget. So I have a portfolio, and for that portfolio, I'm saying that for quarter one, $400,000 is my budget, and for quarter four, $2 million is my budget. So my overall budget that is being given for that particular year is $4.6 million, as you are able to see over here. This particular transaction, which you see here, is just being done by the portfolio leader because he is the one who knows how to distribute the his budget. He knows that, okay, in quarter one, quarter two, we may be doing a lot of projects from the previous year, but we may be taking a lot of new initiatives from quarter three, quarter four. So based on that, he can just go and allocate his budget across the various quarters that he has set up for his planning cycle. Now, once this has been set up, that means the budget has been set up, I'm now going to log in as a portfolio manager. So the portfolio manager's main role is to identify the demands that has come in and then make sure that they go through the proper validation process, and then they get prioritized and get allocated for project creation. So we will look at each of these steps one by one in the coming few minutes. So once I log in as the portfolio manager, let me just open up the portfolio module. So the portfolio manager is able to see all the demands that has been logged in across the organization for that specific portfolio. You can see that there are 45 demands that has been logged, and then based on the workflow that has been set up, you will be able to see the distribution of the demand across the various workflow stages. Let us quickly go to one of the demands, which is what we call as implement and authentication. Now, once the demand has been logged, there are two key transactions that can be done on the demand. The first one is you will be able to capture all details pertaining to the demand. And these details can be captured or put in by the demand sponsor, the team or the department that is logging the demand, or it can also be put in collaboration with the portfolio manager. So some of the details that we capture is what kind of demand it is, uh, how is it aligned to a strategic program. So these are the strategic programs that has been identified at the org level, and how is this demand aligned to one of the programs. So cloud enablement is what this is getting aligned to. And then you will also be able to see what are the goals. If I fulfill this demand, what are the goals that is being met. So these are the organization level goals, so the portfolio level goals. So you will be able to map it to that as well. And then you will be able to specify if this demand is going to be picked up, what is my typical implementation timeline. You will also be able to specify what is my implementation cost, and you'll also be able to specify how the cost gets distributed across the 4 months of the implementation timeline. And then more importantly, what are the estimated benefits if this demand is being met, is being implemented. So it has a benefit in terms of cost reduction. It has a benefit. It will help the organization to grow its revenue. And it also, like you can see here, has a profitability related benefit associated with it. And then we go and say, why is this demand critical? So there are certain values provided over here. And then you can also go and specify if this demand is not being met, what is the risk? And if it is, how will the market perceive if this demand is not, that is the risk very high or medium? So you can basically capture all the details that are related to this demand. Now, once the demand has been, details has been captured, then the portfolio manager can go and rate this demand. And I will show you how the rating is being done. But before the demand gets rated, he can share this demand with certain with certain experts within the organization and get their views on this specific demand based on the data that has been entered. And then all the documents that are associated with this demand, like what is the statement of work if it is going to get implemented, what are some of the frameworks that needs to be considered, all that documents and all the collaboration that happens on that demand can be captured within the system. So this is basically bringing you to the stage where you're making sure that you have logged in a demand, and the demand is getting reviewed by relevant stakeholders within the organization. And based on that, you can then move it to the next stage of the workflow. Now, reviewed stage is a stage where the demand has been reviewed by certain experts. Like say, for example, if I take you to this specific demand, you will see that the demand sponsor or the portfolio manager can give his rating. He says that he can say that, okay, if this demand is going to be picked up, the timeline is medium, the benefits is going to be very high. Now, this could be the portfolio manager's view, but the portfolio manager can invite external stakeholders who are not part of his portfolio team to give a rating on this demand. So that means you are getting an external view on this demand, and each of these stakeholders can give their view on that demand. So you will be able to see that they are also agreeing with you that the timeline is minimal, whereas the benefit if you implement this demand is very high. Now, all of this inputs is basically going to be taken into fact when the demand finally gets reviewed and when the demand is basically getting prioritized. Okay. So once the demand has gone through the cycle, that means it has been reviewed. It basically gets approved, and once a demand has been approved, based on the budget that is available within the portfolio budget gets allocated, and then it goes to the execution stage. But before that, let me just before I take you to that cycle, let me just show you some important capability which we support in the application. The first one is once you have identified your demands. So you have identified, the key demands that are aligned to your strategic program. They have been reviewed by stakeholders. They have been rated by stakeholders, and all that information is available. Then a team or the portfolio manager can come and look at the demand, take a look at the demand. They can also look at the way it has been rated by various experts, and then take that demand to a specific prioritize that demand for its execution. The prioritization can be manually done. So you can look at the screen over here. You'll be able to see the business benefits, and you'll also be able to see the rating. And then you can just go and say that, okay, this is the demand I would like to approve for execution based on the ones that is already been reviewed. So that is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is we provide an AI-based prioritization engine. Now, in this AI-based prioritization engine, based on all the information that you have provided in terms of the details of the demand, the business benefits of the demand, the ratings of the demand. So based on all that information, you can create a scenario. So let me just call this cost optimization. So you can create a scenario. And once I've created the scenario, I can define the criteria based on which this optimization should be considered. So my criteria will say that my cost reduction should be maximum and my profitability increase should also be maximum. Now, these are the two constraints that I've set. Now, once I have done that, I will just apply the prioritization. I will invoke the AI engine, which will then look at all the details that are available. It will look at what is your objective from prioritization of your demands are concerned. So here you have seen my primary objective is to optimize the cost as much as possible. And once that has been done, either the system will tell you that you can pick up 16 demands that is there. We had 45 demands. You can pick up 16 demands. The cost of implementing these 16 demands is $2.7 million. So you don't have a budget constraint because the budget that is available with you is 4.1 million. So which means that you can take all these 16 demands which the system has identified for you. Now, based on the 16 demands that has been identified, if you go and implement them within the timeline, you will be able to bring in a cost reduction of 1.3 million, and you will also be able to increase your profitability approximately by 1.6 million. So this is what the system will give you, and the demands that has been identified for execution will be shown below. You will see the state they are in, and then you can basically go and prioritize these demands. So we have an AI algorithm that will show you that will do its own calculation and show you the demands that needs to be picked up. You can go with that, or like I showed you before, you can take the manual approach. But once the demand has been identified and it has been prioritized and it has been approved, then what the Nimble application will do is it'll give the ability for the portfolio manager, like say for example, here is a demand where the cost requirement for quarter two is, you can see here, is $125,000 and quarter three is $65,000. So you can take a decision whether you want to allocate the full budget or you just want to allocate $80,000. Take a look at it, review it, and if it makes sense, allocate more budget and proceed with that demand. Or say, for example, at a stage gate of $80,000, if it is not making sense, you can park that demand for later execution. So basically, it gives you a mechanism where you can either allocate the full budget or you can allocate a partial budget and review the progress of that demand and then take it forward if you want to allocate for the budget to it. But this view over here is interesting, which will basically tell you quarter-wise what is the budget that is available, and then what is the budget that has been allocated. You will be able to see it over here. And the residual budget is what is the budget that is available for you at that point of time. So if you want to pick up new demands, it will basically show you what is the budget that is available. So you basically see here that you have close to $1 million available with you, which means that you are capable of taking newer demands into the system. Now, once a budget has been allocated to a demand, then you will take the demand to the next stage where you'll say that, okay, the budget has been approved. It is good to go. It is ready to, go for project creation and project execution. So there is a stage known as in execution. So you can change the status to in execution. And the moment you change the status to in execution, I'm just logging in as a program or a project manager over here. You will now be able to see that the demand which has been reviewed and approved, um, the demand which has been reviewed and approved. So I'm just logging in as a different persona here. So the demand which has been reviewed and approved will automatically flow to your workspace as a project request. So you will be able to see all the project requests that has been approved. So let me just click on this project request. You will be able to see the details of the project. You will see that the source, it is a demand that has come from the upstream. Now, one of the capability which we do over here is we let you plan, how do I execute this project? Now, there are a series of templates which we provide here out of the box. So do you want to follow a Scrum method in executing that demand, or do you want to follow a waterfall method, or do you want to follow a hybrid method or a Kanban method? So we provide templates out of the box, and this part of the presentation is what we are going to cover next week. That is the actual execution of project using various lifecycle and methods that we will be covering in the next week's session, which is our final session. So I'm not going to touch upon that. But what we are saying over here is once a demand has been approved and it has been given to the project delivery team, there are certain transactions which the delivery team can do. They can capture the details, they can view the details of that demand. They will be able to choose the appropriate life cycle. And then we also provide a workflow engine wherein the demand can be taken to various stakeholders, to make sure that you have the proper approvals in place, all the required details are captured, and then you will take it to the project creation stage. And once you take it to the project creation stage, a project gets created. So what you have seen over here now is a demand which was logged by some user in the portfolio management workspace as a demand. The demand went through a detailed business case workflow where the business case for the demand was captured through collaboration with external stakeholders, internal experts, external experts. And once the approval has happened, it went to a prioritization process. Once the prioritization has been completed, a budget was allocated to that demand, and then it gets approved for project creation. So all that I mentioned to you at the beginning of the work of the presentation, that is from starting a portfolio to allocating a budget to identifying the key demands to building a business case for those demands to prioritizing and approving those demands, and once approved to creating a process wherein which the project can be intaken by the delivery team. That entire process can be modeled workflow can be modeled very effectively within the Nimble Enterprise platform. And our customers, especially the corporate customers or customers who are into large account management, have been using this flow for managing that specific function. So that's it. Any questions? That's it from my side. Any questions?
Yes, Manu, we have a few. So
Yeah.
the first question is, are you offering this service in the manufacturing industry also?
This service can be adopted in the manufacturing industry. Like I said, it will be more clear in the next week's presentation. But since you asked this question, I will like to highlight it to you. So this solution is highly configurable. So which means that the workflows that are applicable for manufacturing from a perspective of demand review, demand approval, demand execution as a project, what is the workflow that you want to follow, all of that can be set up in the tool. We do provide out of the box workflows, and we do have customers in the manufacturing industry who have also adopted this solution for this specific purpose, and we have been able to model their workflow, and they have been able to use it effectively. So to answer your question, yes, it can be used.
All right. So the next question is, how do we handle the allocation of resources when multiple high priority projects are competing within the organization? And in scenarios where two departments need funding for critical projects, how does Nimble assist project managers in advocating for the necessary resources for their projects?
Okay, so we did cover this in our last week's webinar, but I would just like to highlight. See, once, let me just give me a minute. Let me just change my view over here. I'm going to log in as someone senior. So this is a view which is also available to the portfolio managers, and they can also use it during uh, the the approval of demand. So one of the views that is provided by default in the system is a view which will basically give you visibility on how my resources are utilized. So you can look at your resource utilization view on the basis of roles or on the basis of skills and you can say, for example, I want to look at it for quarter 1 or quarter 2 or quarter 3 or across quarters. You can just apply the date frame and you get to see the visualization over here. These are all my resources, and you can see that all of them are 100% allocated. Some of them are 157% allocated. You can see here Hassan over here is 270% allocated. And then if you blow down, expand it, you will be able to see the projects on which he is working on at this point of time. So there is a visualization which very clearly shows you resources who are over allocated, resources who are under allocated, resources who are completely available, free, and not allocated to any project at all. So this is what is going to be taken into account, especially in scenarios where you have multiple high priority demand and resource constraint becomes a problem. The second one is we also provide a demand versus capacity view. Now, the demand versus capacity view is purely based on what is my requirement at a project level. So, which basically means when a project has been created, within the context of a project, we provide a module which says that for this project, these are the likely set of resources I will require, or roles of resources I will require. And then you will be able to see these are my demand, and for this demand, this is the requirement, and will I be able to provision resources to fulfill this particular demand. So the resource demand can be generated at a project level through a requisition process, saying that okay, in this project I need 5 team members, or I need 5 team members with a design skill or things, something like that. You will be able to you will be able to initiate that, and once that has been initiated, it goes to the central pool where you can search, allocate resources, and it also comes to the capacity view where you will be able to see that okay, you have 5 people, but the demand that has come across projects is 4 or 3, which means that you can intake more projects. Or it may also, like here it shows you in a red band, which means that your demand is more than what is available. So either you need to distribute the allocations more granularly, or you need to hire new people to fulfill the demand that has come from the organization. So that is how we basically handle that. Any other questions?
Yes, just one last question. How does the tool help project managers document and justify changes in project scope to maintain ongoing funding and approval from stakeholders?
So we provide a change control module so there are two ways to do it. Any change can be again logged in as a demand, and you can specify that this demand is a change to a specific project, so it gets a higher prioritization. So that is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is within the project, we provide a change management module or a change control module, which is a workflow enabled module. So you can set up your own workflow. The change can be logged at a project level, and then it can be seen whether that change can be taken up within the context of the budget that has been allocated to the project. So that kind of a review can be done using the workflow. And if that change can be taken within the context of the budget that is available in the project, then you just approve it and it goes for its execution. So it can be executed the waterfall or the agile way. But if there is no budget to accommodate that change, that is when you will log it as a demand with a definition saying that it is a high priority demand mapped to this particular project, and it can go through an approval cycle.
Okay, so that's it, Mano. So anyone else has any questions? I mean, you can very well write in your question. We can answer them. All right then.
Thank you very much for joining this session. And like I mentioned, next week's is the last webinar on this series of subject that we have been having. So we will be focusing on execution of work and projects. So all of you are welcome to join that session.
So I'm sharing my screen. So this is our contact information. If you're interested in exploring our tools or learning more about us, we would love to connect with you. Additionally, we welcome your suggestions for topics for our upcoming webinar episodes. And with that, thank you so much, Manu, and thank you everyone who joined in. Take care and have a good day.